thing that could have defined us. I pray, Holy Spirit, that we can worship today with freedom, but mostly with the freedom that we get from knowing that you, God, is good. With the freedom of knowing that your love is the greatest kind of love we can experience, and that it is there for us all the time, in our highest and lowest. So change us today, change our minds so we can see you, how you see, and see ourselves in the way you see us. And then we can see others in that same light. We pray all this in Jesus' name.
morning, everybody. Welcome to Madras. How are y'all doing today? A couple of quick announcements before we get into our sharing time. First, well, is kind of one. It's 1.5 announcements, so not even a couple. Jeff, well, not say, well, it's Professor. Professor. I'm sorry. This is why I'm not doing the Spanish thing. But has been running an ESL class for the past about a year. Since August, yeah. So, and it's been one of the things that I think we all, everybody who's known about it, been involved in it, can agree is like on mission to what we want to do in the church, and has been a really wonderful thing, and has been kind of a solo project. It's been kind of unsupported, and so that, and then that's the main thing. There's other volunteer things as well, like putting out signs on Sunday morning, or bringing refreshments, or greeting at the door, and things like that. And we want to get that all kind of organized and on a rotation. So there's QR codes, both back by that coffee, which is the bad coffee, so they make good coffee with you. And then right here by the exit, there's 2 QR codes that you hold your phone up to it and scan it. It'll take you to like a little volunteer sign-up sheet. And it's everything. It's the big stuff, like helping with the ESL program that we're hoping to continue to expand, but without, Jeff to do it by himself. And then also the little stuff, like, I would be happy to, stand outside and greet people as they come in. All of that. So if you could sign up for that, even if your answer is none, I'm not doing any of this, which is totally fine. You don't have to. If your answer is no, I'm not doing any of it, that's great. We'll have your email and your phone number, and then we can bother you. No, I'm just kidding. We won't bother you. It's totally internal. Not even. I won't even let that happen. Nobody gets to see it. It'll just go out as you agree to, right? So totally private. I'm not sharing this with advertisers. I'm not making any money. We'll see. Money, I know. There it is. No money. So that's basically it for the announcements. We're also going to, I believe, do Go Day.
Yeah, so Go Day is happening March 26th. We're going to be going over to Hope You Visited. They are reviewing, renovating, decorating the downstairs portion of their building to make it more accessible for everybody. So we will let you know this week. We'll kind of post it on social media. If you guys can just follow our social media, what tools we need to have. If you guys have a drill, may be needed. If you have a paintbrush, it may be needed. So we'll let you guys know this week, and we'll probably take the group if you're a part of that. But yes, that's March Go Day. So please come, and if you have any questions, contact Karen.
And if I'll say too, if you do sign up for that volunteer sheet there, I will send an email with that information. We'll get together. I'll send an email. So contact abounds, right? Contact abounds. I think that's all I've got. Fanny, you ready for the share question? Yes. Okay. Y'all can be seated, by the way. I do like keeping people standing for my announcements. So here's this question: who are you? Is the question, and of course there's a couple of simple answers to that, right? But the way that we want you to think of the question this morning is: if you met somebody you didn't know, but you were really trying to tell them who you really were, the essence of it, what would you say? And with that deeply personal question, talk amongst yourselves to each other really quickly, and go ahead and share there before we share collectively. So give the people around you, introduce yourselves, and then get really close to it by sharing people. Really, really off. Take about 5 minutes.
Okay.
curveball that was. I'll jump like that while it happens. Okay. So, who has something that they share around them that they are good to share with the group? Who are you? I know, that's a tough question. All right. I'm the guy with the mic.
So the first initial thought was I'm a wife and a mom. Outside of that, still trying to find myself. So a wife and a mom works.
That makes sense to me too. Not that I'm either of those things, but I think we probably have more in common.
How am I
You do have your mic.
So I'm gonna steal it from our group. One of the things that came up is, so that it's hard because you're always changing. So who you are is something that just evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. Something evolving and changing. I think that's good.
All right, who are you right now? That's the question.
All right, who else?
I'll do it.
Oh, maybe you did. That may not be what you meant. But you did it.
My titles is what I want to be a teacher, a wife, and mom. As for like who I am, an emotional wreck most of the time. A lot of anxiety, but I also say that I'm intelligent, creative, and caring. So, yeah.
Thanks. Wilder wants to share. So tell everybody what is your name? And what is your favorite thing to do on the playground?
I like to swim and have fun.
Swimming and having fun. Excellent job. He is a swimmer and a fun guy. So you know what? That actually has multiple meanings around here. As in a child who swings on a suspended chain. Yes. Yeah. We're in church.
I'm a mom on who defects may be called shortly. And a wife. I think I have a tendency to also think of this as like, I don't know, you are what you do type of thing. So all those roles pop in my head, but I'm also a work in progress, a person who's trying to improve with many flaws. Passionate. You'd want to agree with that. Sometimes short-tempered. I like to get things done. I'm the person who wants to get things done. I get frustrated in waiting. Yeah. Thank you.
I think it's interesting. This is my wife Jessica, by the way. It's interesting because I am done. I'm finished. No, I'm just kidding. Really not. It's all a mess. On good days, it's a hot mess. It's a cold mess. Anybody else? Who you are? That is a tough one. Yeah, I'll share one besides mine. Oh yeah. Appreciate it.
No problem. When I think of who I am, I think of past, present, and future. So soldier, son, father, husband, servant of God. I try to be not perfect. I think with God, you're trying to figure out who you are in life, to find your purpose and who you are. I think we're not perfect creatures by any means, because that's why God, we have sin and we have forgiveness for our sins, right? So what keeps us going as creatures of God, or creations of God, is we're always to keep going. We have to figure out what our goals are, and how do we want to accomplish those? Do we want to be perfect at it or mediocre? So we're always striving to be perfect, but we're trying to always strive toward that, but we're never going to actually maintain that or grasp that perfect, what we think is perfect, because only one person is perfect, and that's God. But as long as we have that hope and that goal to try to strive to be like God and be perfect, that gives us purpose to keep on going.
Yeah, so I think failing towards perfection is a good thing to fail towards, right? That's really good. I think of myself in negation. inevitable. We tried, but it's happening. So anyway, if anybody wants to be served entirely too much food, you can come to my house. And just like my mother, I'll give you too much food. All right, anybody else? You good? Good? All right. Thank you guys.
All right, you guys can stand for worship. We're going to do one last song before we finish. This is. You are the
days, I kind of rewrite this sermon. So probably the only thing that might stay the same is the passage. You don't have to worry about it. Sorry about that. There have been a lot of different changes to situations that I have lived this past week that led me to see things differently. Like I kind of had the sermon ready. I think it was Thursday night, and then I had this gathering with a group of pastors, and I'm like, oh, this is new revelation. And then I went to a retreat on Friday, and the main speaker, she was talking about autobiography. You know, how we see that, and like everything was related to what I wanted to preach about, but it was like a different approach. So a lot of things have changed. And you will see, well, with the passage that we're going to see today. But so I ask you who you are. And that's probably one of the most difficult questions to answer for everybody. Because who you are has as many answers as people can be in the world. Because who you are to yourself is not the same that who you are to somebody there. It could go like from like you're a nobody to you're everything to me. So if you have somebody that says that you're everything to me, well, lucky you. It could go from who you are to what you do for a living, who you are. It just goes. There are so many different ways of saying this. Who are you? Who am I? Who are you? Like, if I introduce myself, I can say, well, I am Federico Adriano Pesena. Or growing up, I was like, well, I'm the son of Oscar, or I'm the son of Chari. I was in places known as, oh, he's the friends of Florencia. So, who I was, it was defined unintentionally by the person that wasn't me in general. Like if you ask, I'm like, well, I'm Keen and Sashin's dad. Every time it has to do with school. If you ask Sashin who I am, she might tell you I'm the cutest in the world. I trained her for years. If you ask Keen, I could be his worst nightmare. There is no middle ground. If you have a preteen, you know, like they either love you or they hate you. You're the source of their greatest joy and the person who takes everything away. It's not the case with you, of course. You're not experiencing that at all. So many things of who you are I think it will, yeah. And even like we were talking, if you are able to define who you are today, it's most likely that that's not going to be who you are tomorrow, or in the next few days, or in the next year. So a couple of years ago, I met with this guy, and so he said to me, can I speak to you man to man? And I'm like, sure. And he said, so I asked about you, and you are a very difficult person. You quit, and you do not accept other people's opinions. That's what he just dropped me on that first meeting. Now, I'm very difficult, who'll agree with that. I don't accept other people's opinions. I don't accept that. I don't accept that opinion. Oh, come on, that was good. It was too much of a dad joke. It was okay. Now, the one that you quit, it was pretty funny to me. But no, it was funny. I was furious because I quit a job, and it was the only job I quit. But for him, I quit. Thanks. The problem with that is like 2 years later, he's still seeing me through those lenses. So who I was, who I am, it was defined already for that person. So there was no way for him to see me in a different light. So I'm going to tell you something that hopefully you enjoy. are not the worst thing you have ever done. Pretty sure you know that. You are not the worst thing you have ever done. I'm going to tell you something that you might not like. The person you dislike the most is not the worst thing they have ever done, in general or to you. So if we are not the worst thing we have ever done, nobody else is the worst thing they have ever done. So before you leave today and before the passage, there are a couple of things that I need you to remember. So when I was trying to name or number all the things that we are to God, there were so many, but there were three that I really love. One of my favorites is the one that says that we are the apple of God's eye. The other one that I love is that we're blessed. And my favorite is that we're chosen. So we are the apple of God's eye. We are blessed and we are chosen. So it's not a great definition of who you are, but it's a very important one to remember. You're not the worst thing you have ever done. The person in front of you, behind you, next to you is not the worst thing they have ever done. That you are blessed, you are chosen, you're the apple of God's eye, and everybody around you is the same thing. Are you with me? Let's go to the passage for today, which is a passage that I love a lot. It's pretty close to home. Tell me a minute why, if I have time. Walking down the street, Jesus saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man of his parents, causing him to be born blind?" And Jesus said, "You're asking the wrong question. You're looking for someone to blame. There is no such a cause effect here. Look instead from what God can do. We need to be energetically at work for the one who sent me here, working where the sun shines. When night falls, the workday is over. For as long as I am in the world, there is plenty of light. I am the world's light." He said this, and then he spit in the dust, made a clay paste with the saliva, rubbed the paste on the blind man's eyes, and said, "Go, wash at the pool of Siloam." Siloam means sent. That man went and washed and saw. Soon the town was buzzing. His relatives and those who year after year have seen him as a blind man begging were saying, Why? Isn't this the man we knew, who sat here and begged?" Others said, "It's him, all right." But others objected, "It is not the same man at all. It is just somebody that looks like him." And the man said, "It is me, the very one." And they say, how do your eyes get open?" And a man named Jesus made a paste and rubbed it on my eyes and told me, "Go to Siloam and wash." And I did what he said. When I washed, I saw. So where is he? I don't know. They marched the man to the Pharisees. This day, when Jesus made the paste and healed his blindness, was the Sabbath. The Pharisees grilled him again on how he came to see, and he said, "He put clay paste on my eyes, and I washed it, and now I see." And some Pharisees said, "Obviously, this man can't be from God. He doesn't keep the Sabbath." Others countered it. How can a bad man do miraculous, God revealing things like this? There was a split in the ranks. They came back at the blind man. "You are the expert. He opened your eyes. What do you say about him?" And the man said, "He is a prophet." The Jews didn't believe it. Didn't believe the man who was blind to begin with. So they called the parents of the man now bright-eyed inside, and they asked them, "Is this your son, the one you say was born blind? So how is that he now sees?" And his parents said, "We know he's our son, and we know he was born blind, but we don't know what we came to see, having a clue about who opened his eyes. Why don't you ask him? He's a grown man, and he can speak for himself." So his parents were talking like this because they were intimidated by the Jewish leaders who have already decided that anyone who took a stand that this was the Messiah will be kicked out of the meeting place. That's why the parents said, "Ask him, he's a grown man." They called the man back a second time, the man who has been blind, and told him, "Give credit to God. We know this man is an impostor." And he replied, "I know nothing about that one. I know nothing about that one way or the other. But I know one thing for sure. I was blind and now I see." And then it goes on, and I might go back to that later. So I'm going to tackle the first issue here in this passage. The disciples come to Jesus and say, "Who sinned?" And Jesus was like, "Well, you're asking the wrong question." The interesting thing is, most of you have seen my kids. Most of them are disabled from birth. And the interesting thing is that I heard over and over again through the years people naming that there was a hidden sin that made them be born like that. When we have a passage that is pretty clear that it's not about that. But among all the things that I could have focused in this passage, the one that stood up for me this past week was about the way we frame who people are. The way the people frame who we are. The entire passage becomes about people trying to fit other people in the boxes that they think they should be. For example, we have the former blind man. Some people are like, "Well, he cannot see, so if this man can see, then it's not the same man. He's not begging, so he's not a man renewed. He is a look alike." So for people, this blind man was a beggar and he was blind. So now we have one that can see and is not begging. Therefore, this is not the same man. It was easier for them to think that there was a look-alike, a twin, or whatever it can be, than to just accept that maybe, the easiest solution, maybe the right one, that the man was able to see. But no, this man did not fit what people already decided that he was. Therefore, he cannot be the same man, even though he said himself, "It is me, the very one." So the person who he thought he was did not fit with what people thought he was. He was saying, he came to the realization that who he was could be defined in many ways, but mostly, in this case, were negative ones. Now the case of Jesus, for example. The Pharisees already decided who Jesus was. So now we know, Jesus, it was a thing. Jesus asked the disciples at some point, "Who does people say I am?" There is a thing about defining who people are. We do that all the time. We make up our minds about who people are, and most of the times we just don't change it. We know that Jesus is the Christ. We know that he's the Messiah. We know that he's God. We know the end of the story now. And that shows us how, for other people, Jesus was different. The Pharisees already had their minds made up. They are like, they said, "This man is not from God. He does not keep the Sabbath." They already decided who Jesus was. It was a man that had nothing to do with God, just because he did not fit the box that they already had for a Messiah. And even sometimes we box people in good terms. Because they ask the blind man, who do you think Jesus is? And the blind man says, well, he's a prophet. And that's a good quality. Yet, we know now that Jesus is even bigger than that, either for good or for bad. We make a decision of who people are. They call the man back a second time, and they say, give credit to God. We know this man is an imposter. So you know when I told you, you're not the worst thing you've ever done, people are not the worst thing they have ever done? Well, also, you're not the goodest thing you have ever done. And people are not the goodest thing they have ever done either. You know, we love to live out. So if we do that too. We box people into the nicest box because they have done something great once. And it's hard for us to get them out of that. Sometimes when somebody we do not really care about or like, if they do something good, we don't accept it. When we decide that we don't like somebody, doesn't matter how many good things this person does, we have a hard time accepting it. And this was the case of Jesus. It seems to me like the Pharisees realized, well, give credit to God, you can see now, but not to this man. And that happens to us a lot. It doesn't matter how much good we try to bring. If we're boxed into a box that makes somebody not to like us, nothing is going to change. I wrote a lot of things here, and now I realize that I'm a lot of things, but definitely my handwriting is terrible. I had a pastor that said, if we don't change, nothing changes. If we don't change, nothing changes. Yes, nothing changes. Is the grammar okay? And that applies also to the way we see people. If the way we decide to see people doesn't change, then nothing changes. One of the things that's creating, really, if you go into the depth, the thing that's creating conflict in general around the world is because we already decide how people look like. Pretty sure he's not going to listen to my sermon. But the other day I was invited to have lunch with a priest, a Catholic priest. And he got a couple of margaritas, so his tongue was pretty loose. And so when she started sharing about this difficult neighborhood that he lived in. And there's so much crime. And then he threw the comment, there are a lot of black people there, mostly black people. Then he continued talking. So at that moment I felt like, so I was eating a taco, so I had the taco right here. I was like, oh, that was rough. There were a lot of people at that table. Then he continued talking and he said again, yeah, there's so much crime where I live and it's mostly black people. And I'm like, okay, I started to get a little bit uncomfortable. And this priest is Latino. He's a Latino person. A Latino priest. And then he says it a third time. And I'm like, okay. So my girlfriend, because they go to the church, her nails were being like stuck in my leg. She knew she could see my body language, and I was ready. And I stayed quiet until he grabbed my shoulder and was it my shoulder? Yes. He grabbed my shoulder and he's like, hermano, brother, why are you so quiet? Share your opinion. I only said, I just need to know why it's so important to your story that most of the people that live there are black. He almost died. Like, he trying to fix what he said. He just made it worse, especially if you have several margaritas in you. You know, you cannot be very coherent. That's all I said. I was very proud of myself. thing, and it was an issue for me, because there's this stereotype, and I learned it when I came to the US, between Latinos and African Americans. There is this narrative created that really we criticize each other. There are a lot of different excuses and reasons why it's happening, and this priest just came a couple of months ago, and he already had decided the neighbor is full of crime, and it's connected to the fact that there are many black people here. Well, his congregation is 100% Hispanic-speaking people. And that was a problem for me, because when a person in a position of authority like that says something like that, creates a lot of influence, and it's helping those people to create that idea. Like, we know one person that doesn't fit this narrative, we put them in that box, we do not let it move. So, you're not the worst thing you have ever done. The people you dislike the most, the person you dislike the most, is not the worst thing they have ever done. If you want to think about who you are, you need to see yourself through His eyes. You are the apple of God's eye. You are blessed. You are chosen. If you want to think about other people, because we have to love our neighbors as ourselves, everybody, think about, if you close your eyes and think about the person that you just want to punch in the face the most. Well, you decide if you want to think about this person before or after you punch him in the face. But this person is also the apple of God's eye. This person is also blessed. This person is also chosen, and it sucks. Because it feels good to judge people. It feels good to be angry. There is something about being angry that it's something that we like. It generates something, and it's the same when you're in love. Those are strong feelings that generate something else. But when we realize that being a follower of Christ, it's about seeing everybody in the same way that God sees them, it sucks, because we need to live our nature away. Jesus said to the disciples, you're asking the wrong question. You're looking for somebody to blame instead of wondering, what is God up to? So I went into a great length here just to tell you this. No matter how people see you, what they say about you, how they treat you, you are the apple of God's eye. You are blessed. You are chosen. The world is going to be unjust and unfair to us. They were unjust and unfair to Jesus. They're going to be unjust and unfair to us. But also, when you think about people that sucks, well, they are also the apple of God's eyes. They are also blessed. They are also chosen. And if we, my mom used to have this phrase, and I don't remember how it's in English, but you know, an eye for an eye? Well, my mom used to say, I don't know where she got it from. If the entire world goes around getting an eye for an eye, everybody's going to be black. So the change has to start somewhere. And if we can change the way we see people, if we can understand, first we have to understand who we are, how we're loved, how we're chosen, how we're blessed, and if we can see everybody else in the same way. Maybe a little by little, slowly, we can see a change around us and in the world. So stand if you're able. On the night that Jesus was going to be betrayed by one of his disciples, he was eating with them. He was eating with Judas, the betrayer. He was eating with Peter, the one who was going to deny him. He was eating with Mark, it's the assumption that he's the one who ran out naked, because the Gospel of Mark is the only one that describes as somebody ended up running away naked, so I assume it's him. he was eating with those that were going to abandon him in his moment of most need. And he took the bread and he broke it. He said, "This is my body that will be broken for you." Jesus was showing his disciples the value, what they were for him. They were not defined by what they had done. They were defined by the way that Jesus was seeing them. And when dinner was over, took the cup, blessed it, and said, "This is my blood that will be spilled for the healings of the nations." So this is the good news. Even though we are sinners, Christ died for us. This is the terrible news. Even though that person with dislikes are sinners, Christ died for them too. We're all in the same boat here. And that's great. It is difficult to swallow, but it's great. So friends, with this confidence of being able to be called daughters and sons of God, I invite you to pray that Jesus taught us. Padre nuestro, que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino, hágase tu voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. El pan nuestro de cada día, y perdona nuestras ofensas, así como nosotros perdonamos a quienes nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en tentación, mas líbranos del mal. Tuyo es el reino, el poder, y la gloria, por todos los siglos. Jeff, will you help me with me? So I'm going to invite one by one to come. So I invite you to
LGBTQ people in whatever, and however they identify, and whatever, how we just welcome them in their full humanity, is the way I feel about it. And so, to affiliate, they do ask for a picture of our church, and so this will go on their social media. So if you're not comfortable with that, that is okay. But if you want to be part of the picture, we welcome a large group to be able to say, we are Madras Church, and we support reconciling ministries and the full inclusion of LGBT people. So if you can come down to the front, if you would like, if you don't mind being included, then we will take a picture.
So let me bless us before we leave. This goes along with what I've been trying to share today. We believe that everybody is the apple of God's size, everybody is blessed. We have all been chosen. So go with this blessing. The task has ended. Go in pieces. Our faith has been rear-ended, certainly amended. And something might be mended that we didn't know it was torn. We are fired, right, burning fire, turning from the higher places from which we fell, emptying ourselves into the heaven which we'll find our loving and beloved brother, mother, sister, father, and friends. So friends, the task has ended. Go in pieces to feel and see the world